Like to call to order this meeting of the Scottsdale Unified School District Governing Board. Today is February 21st, 2012. It is 5:08 p.m. And Dr. Meyer, would you lead us in the pledge, please? Of the United States. One nation, under God. At this time, I'd like to see. Do the roll call, please.
Eric Meyer.
Jennifer Peterson.
Pam Kirby.
Jenny Brown.
Bonnie Sneed. Okay, and at this time, can we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Actually, I would like to pull one item. Item L, I'd like to amend it to exclude case number 111212 because that's going to be heard on appeal on Friday.
So can I rephrase my
Yes,
motion
please.
to approve the agenda as amended?
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, that will be 5-0. Okay, and at this time, Dr. Peterson, if you would do student and staff recognition and celebrations.
Thank you, Madam President. We have a couple of recommendations. First and foremost, we would like to recommend several members of our board, and we have some plaques that were made up by our Building Services Department. First one is for Mrs. Peterson for her term of president that she served for us. And the second is for Dr. Meyer for all of the service he gave to us as our board vice president. As you can see, we want to congratulate you and also let you take a piece of Scottsdale School District with you because our own craftsmen who do great work made those up. So we want to thank you for your service.
Thank you. They're beautiful. Now, you know we're here the rest of the year, though, right?
Yes.
Can we go now or no?
No. That means you have to be here the rest of the year. Yes.
It's a point of privilege. I'd like to recognize a couple special guests that we have with us this evening. One of them is our former Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning, Katie Kavanaugh. Thank you for joining us. And another one is the president of our Scottsdale Unified School District Foundation, Mary Manross. Thank you so much for being here this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Madam President, I see that we have a group of Boy Scouts out in the crowd with us tonight, so they're probably here to work on their merit badge for civic responsibility. So welcome to the Boy Scouts. What troop are you guys? All right, Troop 649, great. Next we have Dr. Pam Sitton that would like to recognize one of our outstanding principals and what he's been able to accomplish this year.
Okay, that should be on now. All right, I have up here with me Chad Cottle, the principal at Hohokam Traditional School, and we are very excited to recognize him as one of the 2012 Rodell Principals for the Year. He has done an outstanding job. We are all so proud of him. And it is a process that goes through application, site visits, interviews in order to make it to the finalists. So hopefully you've seen him in the paper as a semifinalist. And he now has been awarded as a finalist. And they did their site visit. And then I think over spring break we're going to a Rodell dinner to help celebrate his recognition. We would like to point out that it is really looking at high needs schools and the leaders at those schools and looking at how successful he has been in inspiring the staff members, high achievement, a safe and orderly and welcoming campus. And as you know, that they did earn their state A grade this year at Hohokam Traditional School, and just wanted to make sure that we recognize him this evening and let him know how very proud we are of him and of all the work that's being accomplished at Hohokam. So thank you very much.
Well, I'm not going to say much, but I do want to thank Dr. Peterson, Dr. Sitton for their initial nomination, and thank all of you on this board as Hohokam has gone through a transformation over the past few years to raise the bar. And this award is really not about me at all. It's about the Hohokam community and my teaching staff. And so I'm just so happy for them and the recognition that they've gained over the last month or so. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Chad. Next, we have Tom Clark, who's going to come up and share with us some good news, because we always like money, from the Charros.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson, Madam President, and members of the Governing Board. It's really my pleasure to share some very exciting news with you this evening. The Scottsdale Charros recently awarded Mojave Middle School and Arcadia High School each a grant in the amount of $12,500 for technology. This is the second year that the Charros have awarded the grants to make a greater impact on our schools. Mojave Middle School students Valentin Hernandez, 8th grade student body president, Mackenzie Shane, 7th grade president, and Alex Deere, 7th grade, also helped write the grant that will be used to purchase Acer Iconia tablets for the Mojave Middle School. At Arcadia, they will also be purchasing the Acer Iconia tablets for use in a laptop lending program that's titled Closing the Digital Divide. And this is targeting, it's advancement via individual determination, AVID, and Jobs for America graduates students. So congratulations to those two sites. And I believe that we have representing the Charros organization tonight, Mr. Ryan Speakerman. Is Ryan here? Yes. Ryan, come on up. And we have some representatives from Arcadia, and Anne-Marie Woolsey, Dr. Anne-Marie Woolsey, and Rob from Mojave Middle School principal. Come on up, and I'll let you take it from here. Ryan.
Thank you very much. Well, I was just telling Dr. Woolsey, it couldn't be more exciting for me because I get to come up here and give money away. And it's a great job, and that's why we do what we do, is to give back to our community. And especially education, we were very concentrated. Oh my gosh, that's so embarrassing. Sorry about that.
That's a fine, so we
Yeah,
double the award
I
that
know,
we're getting.
I should have that up. I'll deduct that from. We always have been a part of the Scottsdale system and the education system, and we will continue to grow and to contribute to our society, especially with the Scottsdale Unified School District. So on behalf of the Scottsdale Charros, I have two checks which are actually not legal tender. However, they've already received their, hopefully, I think we've already received our checks. This one, the first one, is to Mojave Middle School in the amount of $12,500. Dr. Woolsey, Arcadia, in the amount of $12,500 as well. And I think they have some tremendous programs that we're very excited about. So we look forward to next year. We thank you for support. I know on a lot of the programs that we've had a tremendous amount of support from both the City of Scottsdale and the Scottsdale Unified School District. So we thank you very much, and we'll continue to try to raise money so we can help out everybody in the Scottsdale Unified School District.
And I'd like to thank the Charros for all the supports of our schools and our classroom and our athletes. So we really appreciate all the support that you give us each and every year. So thank you.
Thank you. It's our pleasure. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And it truly is a testament to a strong community when the Charros is able to support our students. So thank you very much. We appreciate that.
That's why we do what we do. We love to
You guys do a great job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Brian Court, the principal of Saguaro High School, to share with us another award and recognition for one of our outstanding faculty.
Thank you. Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Peterson, it's my honor this afternoon to recognize an absolutely outstanding educator within our SUSD system. I'm speaking on behalf of Janet Blum, Scottsdale Unified School District Fine Arts Coordinator, as she's returning from Washington, D.C.'s Kennedy Center for Partnerships in Education. This evening, or this afternoon, I'm recognizing Mr. Michael Miller. Please join me. Mike is joined by his wife, Karen Miller, tonight. And Mr. Miller, at a recent AMEA state convention, was recognized by the Arizona music educators with their most prestigious award. Mr. Miller is currently the band director and music teacher at Saguaro High School, and the state music educators recognized all of his years of efforts toward growing outstanding young people in a balanced education, in producing young musicians and academics for our world and for our community. Mr. Miller was recognized by the Music Association with the Music Educator of the Year for the entire state this year. So, Mr. Miller, congratulations.
Madam President, and the rest of the school board, and everyone here this evening, I just would have to tell you that it's a very humbling experience. It's something that I give a lot of tribute to in terms of doing what I do to my mentors, the people who got me to where I am today. And without those, and in education, we need to always involve our mentors, and that's what gets us where we are at and gives us the quality of education that we're able to endow our students with to take their next steps in their life. So thank you very much for the recognition, and I appreciate it greatly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. I just wanted to make one comment. I wanted to tell you how much I appreciate your efforts. I know you started the district-wide marching band show that happens in the fall, and that's one of my favorite events all year. And I wanted to thank you because I know that was a huge effort, and it's a great bonding experience for our high school kids. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you.
And I would echo that. We talk about that 6 degrees of separation, and it's amazing because when I go home and talk about Mr. Miller, my wife had him as her band director just a couple years ago. So she remembers him fondly, and All-State and everything else that she was able to accomplish was truly because of your efforts. So thank you for planting that seed of music in my family.
Dr. Peterson, please forgive my early departure. A number of us are heading down to support the Saguaro High School girls basketball team in their pursuit toward a state championship. If they get by a couple games this week, they'll be bringing that championship hopefully back to Scottsdale Unified as well.
We say go SaberCats. Next, Dr. Melissa Sakos is going to come up and talk about another great thing, money, the Microsoft as a donation to the Scottsdale Foundation.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Peterson, I'm going to ask our former mayor, Mary Manross, to come up with me. I asked Mayor Manross to come and hold my hand while I did this recognition. I am a member of the Scottsdale Unified School District Foundation, and of course our former Mayor Manross is the president of the foundation, and we as a board selected to participate in Microsoft's Month of Thanks for a software campaign donation upwards of $10,000. We were able to accomplish our goal and reach the $10,000 mark in one day. With that, you can clap. Okay. Yeah, you can clap. With that, Microsoft has donated $10,000 in software to the Scottsdale Unified Foundation, and the foundation in turn is going to be gifting that back to our school district so that we can identify students in need of home technology packages. Specifically, it's the Office Home and Student 2010, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and OneNote. It's a family pack, and with the $10,000, we'll be able to provide over 170 families that currently don't have the resources in their home this Microsoft Family Pack in order to, of course, engage and be able to do what they need to do at home to improve their academics at our school. So we're very pleased to provide that information for you tonight.
Thank you for letting the foundation help support your efforts. We're always happy to do that. And believe me, we want to do more. Our foundation wants to do more to support the school district and all the wonderful families. And even this is only $10,000 worth of software, but it's one small step, and every child you touch it's very, very important. So that's kind of how I look at it. And every year hopefully we'll be able to be better partners to y'all. Thank you. Thanks for what you do. I want to mention too. I want to thank specifically Melissa, Carla, Tom, and others. I'm sure that I should recognize who really helped us. Got us in the loop here to let us help facilitate this thing happening. Got the foundation involved, and for your efforts to make it a one-day event. Thanks.
And again, the foundation's a great partner, so thank you guys for all you do. You do outstanding things. Our final recognition and celebration this evening is by Dr. Andy Forlis, and she'll be recognizing our own Dr. Ann Hansen.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Peterson and Sandra. It is with great pleasure that we recognize Dr. Ann Hansen. We want to thank Dr. Ann Hansen for her grant proposal writing efforts. Thanks to her, the Scottsdale Education Association has been awarded $4,000 in grants from the Jerome S. and Grace H. Murray Foundation. The SEA has earmarked half for their scholarship program and will use the balance to provide equipment and resources for Coronado High School's Physical Education Opportunity Program for exceptional learning and special training opportunities for SEA's Rep Council and their executive board members. The Murray Foundation is a private organization that awards grants for various purposes. Applicants for the grants must be sponsored by a Murray lineal descendant. So we would also like to recognize Grace Altoff of Coronado High School, one of those descendants, who has been so impressed by the SEA that she encouraged Ann to apply for those grants. Congratulations, Ann.
Thank you, and that concludes our recognitions and celebrations this evening.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Peterson. Do we have any public comment tonight? Okay. At this point, then, we will do superintendent's comments.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I first would like to have Scottsdale leadership come up and present to us an initiative that they are working on, and we're excited to be able to be a part of that.
I'd like to introduce Michael Seiden from Scottsdale Leadership and Cynthia Wenstrom, who I understand this was one of your Pay It Forward projects that you worked on for. Was it a pay? It wasn't? Oh, okay. Okay. My misunderstanding. Okay.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Peterson. First of all, we'd like to thank all of you and the staff members who participate in our annual Education Day to help teach the future and current Scottsdale leaders about the good work that's being done in the Scottsdale Unified School District. It turns out to be one of our better days and very much appreciated. I'd also like to introduce Cynthia Wenstrom, who is the class representative for Scottsdale Leadership Class 25. And Cynthia will explain a very special project that Class 25 took on, and Cynthia was good enough to chair and is now proceeding through the city of Scottsdale.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you all. Just briefly, if you're not familiar with Scottsdale Leadership, again, we are, our mission is to inform, inspire, and to empower leaders for our community, and in short, to grow the community stewardship and gain quality leaders in the city of Scottsdale. It is a 9-month program, and candidates go through a panel interview to be part of the selection process. The organization is now 26 years old. Just a brief background on the principles for civil dialogue. Civil dialogue is clearly a leadership skill. It is finding common ground, sharing values, and open exchange, and it's often a learning experience. It's not easy, and it's not common. On January actually 7th of 2011, Class 25 was presented in their class Community Stewardship Day the idea of the Code of Civility. What might that be, and could we create something that would be a code of civility? Well, by the end of that day, we had come up with a very good rough draft, and we were very pleased to call that kind of a class project, not a pay-it-forward project. Let's go forward to May of 2011, where we actually sat down as a committee now that we had graduated. And we had some milestones that we set for this code of civility. Those were to distill the code into something a little bit more general and very brief so that it was very easy to roll off the tongue. Second was to present the principles to the Scottsdale Leadership Board of Directors for their review and approval, which in fact was done in August of 2011. After that, it, instead of being a class project, actually became a Scottsdale Leadership Initiative. Since then, our goals again have been to share the principles with other community organizations, which we are doing this evening. Thank you to all of you for allowing us to be here. And we're looking for community support from folks as yourselves to either endorse or adopt the principles for civil dialogue. By growing the grassroots effort, our goal is to take the principles back to the City Council, ask for a resolution, and make the principles for civil dialogue part of Scottsdale leadership, or part of the city Scottsdale fabric, and basically enhance the quality of life, which is part of the City Council and the mayor's goals. So with that, Mike, if you don't mind passing out the packets very briefly. Where we are today, the principles, again, are now part of Scottsdale leadership. They're on our webpage, and they are printed on our literature. And very proud to say that since starting this project on November 1st, the mayor has actually signed a proclamation in his support for the principles for civil dialogue. Let me just take you through the packets very briefly. On the right side, you'll see the first page is actually the principles for civil dialogue. Again, this is now the distilled version, and it's very general and very brief. It simply states, as a member of the Scottsdale community, I will genuinely listen, speak respectfully, and be accountable for my words and actions. We go further down the page to define what each of those bullet points means, and I'll let you read that at your leisure. The next page just gives a brief overview, a little bit about what I'm speaking about tonight that you may have to review at your leisure. And then the final page on the right side is a template letter should you choose to endorse or adopt the principles for civil dialogue. On the left side, again, is the actual proclamation presented by Mayor Lane on November 1st. And followed up by 2 major articles that were in the Scottsdale Republic. There were also 2 minor articles in the Scottsdale Republic. With that, I'll just read also our value proposition, which is this, that civil discourse advances the public interests as opposed to selfish interests. It creates a safe environment in which different points of view can be expressed and evaluated. Are there any questions that I can answer for you at this time, realizing that you're going to take this back and review it at a later date?
I wanted to thank you very much. This will definitely be a useful tool when it comes to our board retreat, and we'll definitely take it into consideration at that time. Thank you
very
so much.
Thank you for your time.
I would, if we could go back for just a moment, I would like to, we do have one public comment. Dr. Ann Hansen would like to address us.
Madam President, governing board members, Dr. Peterson, Sandra, members of the Scottsdale community, we would just like to thank Jennifer Peterson for her past work as a incredible, and when I say we, I mean the outstanding teacher members, certified members of the Scottsdale Education Association. We want to thank you for your dedication and commitment to the best interests of our district. And we want to wish the very best to Bonnie Sneed as she moves ahead as the president. I apologize that I don't have flowers because my plane was late, or I would have brought them. Dr. Meyer, I was not intending on giving you flowers, but we also want to thank you for being a wonderful vice president. And we promise and pledge that we will continue to keep the channels of communication open with each and every one of you. Thank you for your dedication. Thank you.
To celebrate Arizona's 100th birthday, several of our schools hosted a variety of activities, and many of the events highlighted fourth graders who study the history of Arizona as part of their curriculum. Fourth graders at Anasazi, Copper Ridge, Desert Canyon, Hohokam, Hopi, Kiva, Laguna, Pueblo, and Sequoia participated in the Scottsdale Area Association of Realtors event, where students displayed the projects that represented a 10-year time period in Arizona. Some students also participated in a contest about Arizona history called Are You Smarter Than a Fourth Grader? They competed against some local celebrities. Some students attended a luncheon that had a featured speaker of Justice Sandra Day O'Connor. Copper Ridge School had several events. Grades 5 wore their favorite Western wear. General music was performed. Middle school art students had a commemorative mural. Tree planting celebration was done from pre-K through 5th grade. A cowboy singer performed. A trick roper entertained. Ice cream cups were served. And the end of the day activity was a student body picture on the field with the students holding letters and numbers to designate Arizona 100. Hohokam Traditional School had a flag-raising ceremony that incorporated a flag-raising, and I was a guest speaker there. We did have a flag donated by Dr. Meyer that had been flown over the state capitol, and they flew it only on that day, and now they will have it as a commemorative into the school. Pima Elementary School's 100th Arizona Birthday Special Flag ceremony also occurred. And in Kiva, and you can see some pictures on the screen, had events that included speeches by school officials and dignitaries, singing the state song, a time capsule, and then students dressed up in period costumes and acted out as characters, and they were interviewed by their own principal in order to take on the roles of those individuals. They also had a state flag created by students using their hands, which was a unique art project. And then finally, in all of our learning communities, we hosted expos for the Arizona Science Festival. The Arizona Science Festival is the biggest celebration of innovation in Arizona. We had more than 250 organizations have partnered to showcase Arizona's leadership in science, technology, and innovation. Arcadia Learning Center had all of their schools come and present. Desert Mountains had all of their schools showcase science and technology and related projects that were implemented based on their curriculum. Chaparral Learning Community had students and teachers share information about grade-level science concepts through demonstrations and presentations. Coronado Learning Community showcased and demonstrated their STEAM, that's science, technology, engineering, art, and math-related projects that are implemented. Saguaro Learning Community had activities that included the Lego robotics, gaming demonstrations, Project Astro, Embry-Riddle planetary display activities, and ASU's Rocket Club. Copper Ridge, on February 29th from 6 to 7:30, will have community leaders and experts in science and technology speak and meet students and their parents. In addition, there will be 3 25-minute sessions in which presenters will summarize their careers, share what skills and education are needed, and have a question and answer follow-up. It was really a great opportunity to see all of our schools come together. I think what was most exciting for me was to see our little kindergartners interacting with our 12th graders on their science projects, and they were just excitement was abounded in all of those areas. As we move into our final sports area for winter activities, as you heard tonight, the Saguaro girls are playing at 6 o'clock at Grand Canyon Arena, and they are playing Palo Verde High School. Arcadia boys basketball will play at Wells Fargo Arena on tomorrow evening at 7:45 against South Point Catholic. That is our final remaining competitions for our winter sports, and we are moving into our spring sports things. I am excited to announce that ANLC opened their cafeteria and their auditorium today. So they served their first lunches in their new building, and it was quite exciting. So great things are happening there at ANLC. And then Cocopah, we are also proud to announce that at spring break, they will be moving their teachers into their new first two-story wing that has been completed. So our bond projects are going full steam ahead, and the staffs are doing a great job. So we're very, very proud of what we've been able to accomplish there. And then finally, Carla Partridge has a video she would like to share with you.
The Scottsdale Unified School District could be a national model in how public education can, and often does, get it really right. Scottsdale Unified has an incredible record of success in any way a district is measured. You need only talk to its students to see firsthand that this school district is one of America's best.
It's really been first class, you know, it's really premier here in Scottsdale. You know, I started out at Cherokee and the best teachers in the world there, and then I had the self-contained program at Pima where it's really individualized, and then Mojave was great, and here at Chaparral is really the best high school you're going to get anywhere. The honors track is second to none.
Chaparral High School senior Brian Dinner was accepted early to Duke. Some of his classmates will go to Ivy League and top private universities across the world. This Arcadia High School junior says Scottsdale Unified School District has prepared her well for whichever college that she chooses.
They really broaden your horizons. Here in MediaCom, we have competitions. We can just get different scholarships to different places. There's just lots of options that you have here.
Our students are performing at the highest levels across the country. They are attending the most selective colleges in the United States and in the world.
As a visitor, I can tell you that I was surprised to see the facilities offered in this school district. Many of the schools look like college campuses and have similar offerings. Does your child want to anchor the news someday? Or find a cure? Or love to learn with state-of-the-art equipment such as this smart board? Or learn online from home, for that matter? It's all here.
We have some excellent programs as far as elective programs go. CTE programs, career technical education programs, like, for example, my program where we do broadcasting and filmmaking. We have contemporary music and sound upstairs, which we collaborate with often. They score our films and they work on sound editing and live music production. Our technical theater program is great. Advertising art is great. We just have a lot of cool programs, a lot of cool stuff.
The Scottsdale Unified School District has a very progressive leadership team. And they are frankly tired of hearing that charter and private schools are somehow better than an education here.
I believe in choice. I think choice is healthy because I believe that if we're doing our job right, parents are going to understand that I wouldn't want to send my child anywhere else. I should be sending them to Scottsdale schools.
Our district has really outperformed state averages on our standardized assessments, as well as national assessments, SAT, ACT, and our advanced placement scores for our high school kids. And we get there because we have a very, very well-rounded approach to how we educate kids.
Innovative, creative. I think one thing that I really like about Scottsdale, always have, is that they're student-centered. Certainly our statement, engaging, empowering students every day, that's exactly what we believe in.
Scottsdale Unified School District, living its motto every single day.
You know, as they say, engage, educate, and empower every student every day, and that's the way that Scottsdale works. They really try to do that.
Scottsdale Unified School District, one of America's best.
And we would like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for partnering with us to make that video happen. So we're very proud of our partnership with the Chamber.
Yeah, can you tell us where it's going to be seen and?
Carla, you want to talk a little bit about what our plan is moving forward and how it's going to be seen and where folks can access it?
Madam President, governing board members, David and Sandra. The video will be on all of our websites, but in addition to that, it'll be this segment will be shown at least 10 times on television within a 30-minute segment, which are featuring 12 businesses that the Chamber has selected. So it'll be on the ION channel and perhaps AZ Family. They're determining which channels right now. In addition, we will prepare a 30-second commercial, which we can use on several different ways. We can share with the community. We will be placing it in the Chamber of Commerce. It'll be in the Tourism Bureau. We're going to send it to the resort so they can have it streaming on their television as area interest. We will have it on every single school's website, including our own. And this is just the beginning. We will be doing our own 30-minute segments with the Arizona Chamber TV, is what it's called, Scottsdale Chamber TV. And we'll be able to they'll be providing the sponsorships. So we'll be able to do our own segments, and we can focus on certain areas, technology, pre-K, whatever we choose.
And can we share this with the Realtors Association as
Yes,
well?
ma'am. That's one of the other places where it will be. We wanted you to see it first. Thank you.
Dr. Meyer?
I would love to ask questions, but I know I can't. Michelle's squirming over here. So maybe this could be put on another agenda so we could discuss other possibilities.
I think that would be a wonderful idea.
All right.
That concludes my comments this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. At this time, I would like a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended. Yes.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, that would be 5-0. That passed. Next is the information and discussion items. I'm sorry? Oh, I thought we did that already. Okay. Okay. So item L, which is the action on hearing officers' recommendations, but it was amended to exclude case 111212, which will be heard on appeal February 24th. Can I have a motion for that?
So moved.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye, and that passes 5-0. Okay, next is the information discussion item, the middle level computer curriculum adoption.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm pleased to introduce Dr. Karen Benson. She's been working very hard on all of our curriculum and working with the teams across the district. And she's here tonight to give us an update of where we are in our middle school arena when it comes to our computer and technology curriculum.
Correct. Thank you, Dr. Peterson. Good evening, Madam President, governing board members, Dr. Peterson, Sandra, and all here with us this evening. Tonight it is my pleasure to provide you with an update about the recommendations from our middle level computer adoption committee intended to support the computer elective courses at all of our K-8 and middle schools in Scottsdale. Given no adoption of instructional materials happens in isolation, you'll also notice that we've included important additional recommendations from Tom Clark and Dr. Mitch Simmons in this presentation tonight to ensure all groups are consistent in our plans to further develop computer programming at the middle level across SUSD. I think if I just click. To begin, I'd like to acknowledge the members of our technology committee. Consistent with instructional materials adoption policies, we included middle-level computer teachers, administrators, parents, tech coaches, and district reps in our work and in our committee to ensure we heard the ideas and thinking from multiple stakeholders. And because we're online, this affords us opportunities to not have everybody come down here, but if anybody is here, please wave. And if not, there we go, we've got a couple. And for those of you watching at home, again, thank you for your contributions to this committee. At this time, I'd like to extend a special thank you to Kay Berry, as she's been a longtime advocate for middle-level kids in programming in Scottsdale for years. Her leadership continues to be significant, and she, with regrets, extended that she couldn't be here this evening. So thank you, Kay. You might remember that last spring, one of our highlights in the middle school planning presentation included that we had recently revised the purpose and course descriptions of our elective computer courses at the middle level. At that time, we shared that we were just beginning to look at securing materials for these courses to allow them to be more module-based or project-based, based on the demands of our committee. Those conversations continued to happen last spring and this fall. Over the summer then, our middle level teachers met to further develop their elective computer courses, sharing modules and creating project-based units according to the state tech standards that they are responsible for teaching. That work continues yet today, as our middle level computer teachers have been a great example of a high-functioning PLC, as they've agreed on what's most important to teach. They have co-developed units to share, and they've created common end-of-unit and end-of-course assessments so that they all can monitor their students' progress in those courses. To clarify, the materials and resources recommended this evening are intended for the 3 computer electives within our K-8 and our middle schools: the 6th grade computers course, the computer basics course, and the advanced computers course. While not all of our campuses have all 3 electives, they all do have the computer basics course. And so we listed that course description that we revised in last year's middle school planning guide at that time. And we'll need to be revising that again based on the demands and the needs and the changes that continue to happen over time with technology development. You might also be wondering about the 4 Career Exploration Tech Lab courses that we have at 4 of our different middle schools. Those courses are supported by Dr. Simmons and the CTE funds available to support CTE programming. So while we have a partnership with them, because they have some funding that they can use to develop those courses, the materials that we bring forward for your consideration tonight are really about these 3, the development of these 3 courses. The first task of our Computer Adoption Committee was that we asked them to identify priorities or look-fors in any of the instructional materials under consideration. We asked them to afford special attention to those products or tools that might allow for differentiation in the classrooms. Next, we asked our teachers to consider both the tools or the hardware that would fit this criteria and the instructional materials or software that would engage kids in meaningful ways as 21st century learners. This first hardware or tools wish list that you see on the screen in front of you was presented to Tom Clark already last spring. And with his support, those materials listed on the screen were already purchased and delivered to all sites already last spring, so we could begin using them using capital override dollars. And we did this in preparation for the instructional materials that we knew that we were going to be asking for again this fall. So we're a little bit ahead of the game in terms of the hardware. We followed a typical adoption process with this committee. Specific to this adoption, we requested materials from vendors that would support project-based learning and tech standards our students are expected to learn and understand at the middle level. And given the responsibility we have to be frugal with our recommended purchases, we asked this committee to prioritize their choices, and that their top choices are included yet on this list in front of you today. You'll notice the bulk of their list includes purposefully selected materials that are intended to engage our kids in project-based learning. As I mentioned in the beginning of this presentation, we've been very thoughtful to ensure that the work of this committee is in line with the other groups that influence middle-level program development in technology across Scottsdale. Since the work of this committee finished last semester, a few key players have added additional pieces already that we'll include in our elective courses for next year, and I want to highlight those quick because those are in addition to what we're asking you to consider to approve this evening. Dr. Simmons has just recently, as of last week, secured an opportunity to embed 2 Lego robots as part of a robotics module unit in all of our K-8 and middle schools next year. And he'll use CTE funding to buy that software to make that happen for our students participating in those elective courses beginning next year. That's significant. That's a very new development. In addition, Tom Clark has agreed to provide 5 interactive tablets. And in the previous information that I sent to the board, I think I indicated a kind of product, and we've been encouraged not to do that. So 5 interactive tablets to every K-8 and middle school to support another module in our module-based learning in our computer elective courses as well. And we continue to work closely with Sharon Ewers as our lead librarian to see if we might purchase with that group it's called iSafe. It's one of the resources first identified by our committee that helps ensure our kids understand safe practices and behaviors as they continue to emerge as digital learners and citizens today. The librarians have also talked about using capital override dollars to purchase that, so we're working with them to decide which one might move forward with that. So that's up in the air as of yet and not on this list because we believe it's on theirs. Two important next steps include that our middle level teachers have been very forthcoming in that they've asked for further professional development to keep on top of the changes so that they can provide engaging experiences for our kids. And we'll provide for that for them this summer. Dr. Simmons and I have already talked about a summer institute embedding a strand to allow teachers to participate in that, especially about the robotics part that we've just added last week. We will continue to embed technology standards in relevant and meaningful ways across and within all applicable courses in middle school and high school. And conversely, we'll use our technology courses to further understand the Common Core standards, as is expected with the rollout of the Common Core standards. Technology has a key part in that grades 6 through 12. Other next steps include we will continue to collaboratively work with those mentioned in this presentation and with the new Director of Technology that's likely to be named this evening, with Dr. Sackos, because we want to make sure our forward movement is consistent with the recommendations of the Middle Level Task Force, which you're going to hear next after this presentation as well. Thank you for allowing us to bring forward the recommendations from the Middle Level Computer Adoption Committee for your consideration this evening. Did we miss a slide? We did?
Go back a slide.
So sorry you didn't get to see your text bus. I'm not going to be able to find it. There we go. The continued program development that's concert-like involves that we include the plans with the district technology plan and the technology bus, which you have seen. Have we all been inside the technology bus? Still parked outside here. Did not mean to skip over the bus. Thank you for allowing us to bring forward the recommendations from the Middle Level Computer Adoption Committee for your consideration this evening, and for allowing us to include other program development happenings concurrently in Scottsdale to ensure we are providing opportunities for all of our kids to grow as digital learners. At this time, we'd be happy to entertain your questions, and I have friends that can help us with those because there's a lot of players involved in technology development in Scottsdale, including Dr. Simmons and Tom Clark.
Thank you very much. Questions? Mr. Brown.
When is the magic bus going to move?
I believe that question might be best answered by Tom Clark or Dr. Peterson.
Madam President, Board Member Brown, the bus is currently sitting back in the back of this building as we're outfitting it with the technology that is going to be used, an interactive smart board, an audio system, and a response system. So I don't have a definitive date, but we also are having the bus wrapped, so it will have an exterior design that you will not miss as you're going down the street. So we're just getting those final pieces. It will be available sometime after spring break, but I don't have a firm date for you yet.
Dr. Meyer?
Thank you. So in my packet, I have the middle school computer adoption October 2011, and this is the list of different programs that we're approving tonight. Is that correct?
I'm not sure which piece we're referring to in the packet. Do you have the
No,
list?
we're not. This is an information update, so
Discussion.
we're not actually approving them tonight.
So we're discussing. Is this what we're discussing? Because am I in the right spot?
The
in
Excel
that?
spreadsheet, is that what we have, that we're
I
looking
can
at?
show it
That
to
is
you.
correct.
So it's the 37,500
Correct.
number?
Total.
And there's multiple different programs. I'm assuming that's what these are here. And so your team discussed each of these? Can you?
And reviewed. Madam President and governing board members, we had vendors submit many products for us to look at and review. And using that criteria, the look for criteria, the adoption committee evaluated those and selected those that they thought that would be most allowed for differentiation, because they have kids coming in at all different levels. And so to meet different standards, they picked products that would allow kids to work at their own rate with those different standards, like the entrepreneur one and the that's the one that comes to mind.
Okay, so I can understand this, just so I know what I'm approving, and if a parent ever asks me, I can answer their questions. These are licenses for each of the middle schools for each of these products?
When we bought a license, we bought it for the entire district, yes, so that every school would have access to that, every K-8 and middle school.
And every kid will have access if they
If they
take
choose the elective.
The elective,
Correct.
okay. And then in that class, there'll be, the teacher will differentiate which of these programs that they will use, because every school has all these programs?
Every school will have access to everything that's on the sheet, and that's been a problem with equity in the past that we're trying to address. We want to afford all of our kids with the opportunity to have similar resources. And so the intent is we have different modules that kids work through, and it's differentiated based on where they come in. If they come in and they can type very well, we're hoping that they're not starting at the beginning of where we'd start with word processing, that they move quickly through that and go to other modules, et cetera. So that's why we want to have more choices and afford more opportunities for our teachers to do that.
And for instance, the entrepreneur, when you talked about, is that, it's more than typing, I would imagine.
Very much so.
And so with two questions then, so can kids do this from home?
These materials so far would be installed. Most of these are not web-based that you're looking at
Okay.
here because they involve licenses, but that's something we can certainly look into.
And can we offer an after-school community schools class where kids can
I'd
use
love to see
these
that.
products too? Because, when our kids are in middle school, it's always tough for them to choose
Correct.
which elective they're going to take. And if this looks like good stuff, so it would be good to use it for that as well. If your child was in band, they may not have the opportunity to take this elective or in a foreign language or whatever, and then community schools could offer it, and we could use the software for that and actually generate revenue. So.
To that point,
Yeah.
Governing Board Meyer, that's a great point, and I will follow up with Chris Thuman about that. But to speak to like the entrepreneur, those types of softwares, they tend to be simulation-based, which our kids really like, and that's why our teachers recommended them and those that were on the committee for those.
I had a question. In some of our middle schools, they have would this be considered like our specials where they go in a rotation? And do they have to take this, or could they test out?
That's a great question. At this time, this is part of an elective choice, as Dr. Meyer was referring to. So I don't believe we have most of our middle level campuses that have a wheel where this is rotated in, but the principals here may want to speak to that directly. Does anybody else want to respond to that? It's choice. And so if you're talking about testing out of the entire course, what we've tried to do, we've encouraged our teachers to create a course that's so inviting, and within it, kids test out of modules or work through a module more quickly and go to another module that they may not know a lot about. So there's not been a talk about testing out of the course at this time.
Okay, so if they do go through it very quickly, then do they have the option to then go to, what would they do then with
We
their
want to
time?
have more modules available so that there's more choice within it. So let's say that I have enough content or enough resources to engage my kids for 9 weeks. I want additional resources for kids that maybe don't need all of that in 9 weeks. So if I can go through one module more quickly, then I can move to another module, or I go more deeply in with a module and do more things with it with respect to standards.
Okay, will they be going for an entire year, for a semester, 9 weeks?
I'm getting a little coaching from middle school principals, thank you. Semester. It depends. It's not consistent across the district, I believe.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Peterson.
I'm sorry, I did want to ask just a reiteration about the consistency. When do we anticipate we'll have the consistency?
Governing Board Peterson, that's an excellent question. I think we might get some coaching from the recommendations that come from the middle level task force that have asked us to address that in terms of equity, not just with this elective, but with all of our electives as well.
Right, but I mean, since we're talking about this one, this is a very important elective, positioning our kids for the future. And I think the community schools idea was excellent. I'm hopeful at some point maybe we consider even getting into the adult education business, because I know a bunch of grown-ups that could benefit from learning, from this. So thank you. Excellent presentation, by the way.
Thank you.
Madam President, Board Member Peterson, to kind of follow up on that adult education, I am proud to announce that at Coronado several weeks ago, Board Member Brown participated and led a TechLink initiative where we had the CenturyLink folks come in and do computer basics. We had 45 families come, and it was a great turnout. And they were there just absorbing the computer basics about the internet and those types of things. So we know that we need to provide that for our families, and we're going to continue. And I just want to recognize Board Member Brown for helping us do that.
Thank you, Denny. I just want to say, I think that's great, because I don't think really understanding technology, there's no demographic for that. That's kind of an age group thing. You know, over a certain age, there's a bit of a challenge. So I think every school could benefit from that.
Mr. Brown.
You know, speaking to that, this room at Coronado covered such a broad demographic. It was massive. There were guys older than me there, and absolutely absorbed in what was going on. It was very cool to watch.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Benson.
And next, we have the middle school visioning and task force update.
Madam President, board members, I am excited to introduce Dr. Melissa Sakos, who has put in a tremendous amount of work and really brought together a huge working group that separated into 3 different groups to do their reports and then came back together. And she has really just done a tremendous job of leading this discussion and setting forth the framework of what our middle level learning will look like in Scottsdale schools.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. Madam President, members of the board, I'm actually quite honored that I had an opportunity to lead middle schools in this task force over this last year. It's been quite a journey, and one that we've engaged many stakeholders in, from our teachers to counselors to parents, administrators, our community partners, Scottsdale Community College, Boys and Girls Club, ranging from pre-K 12 or actually pre-K 16 with our colleges there, to really emerge themselves in what we believe. And as I mentioned earlier, all of our work over the last several months has been grounded in research. The information I provided you earlier this evening is around the work of the Association for Middle Level Education and around 16 essential characteristics of successful middle level schools. And you probably have caught on by now that Dr. Benson talked a lot about middle level. I, again, am talking middle level because the presentation tonight and the recommendations that are coming forth come with looking at the middle level age student, and I'll define that in just a minute. Some other work that we looked at through a professor from ASU was brain-based learning. We also spent a lot of time looking at blended learning and also the social-emotional child. All of these foundational essential components, research-based components, were presented in a large group to all of the members within the task force representing the stakeholders I mentioned earlier. And then we broke it down into 3 separate subcommittees based on the work from This We Believe. With that, I was very fortunate to have 3 outstanding subcommittee chairs, Culture and Community, Dr. John Ballas, wave, Dr. Ballas, Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, our very own Dr. Karen Benson, say hi, and our Leadership and Organization, Mr. Chris Asmussen, our current principal at Mountainside Middle. Hey there, Chris. With that, we learned fairly early on that middle-level education is really the conduit to high school and college and career success. And what was important for us to ensure that we had our arms wrapped around was the physical, emotional, moral, physiological change of the adolescent. And when I talk about the middle-level learner, we're talking about middle age students from ages 10 to 15. And so they come in a very interesting package to us, and it was important for us to understand the research behind educating the middle level learner so that we could set them up for success moving past the middle level, again moving on to high school and then to college and career readiness. We began by looking and redefining our middle level vision, one that, of course, reinforces the challenging academics and readiness, but also recognizing that it was important to support our students socially and emotionally. With that, some of the characteristics that came forth in our culture and community revolve around a school environment that is inviting and safe, inclusive and supportive, ensuring that students' academic and personal development is guided by an adult advocate, that one person to have that connected relationship to, comprehensive guidance and support services, meeting the needs of that adolescent age that I spoke of, health and wellness embedded within our curriculum, school-wide policies and related programs, school activities that involve our families in their education of their children, and the school includes community and business partnerships. With that, the community and culture recommendation, or subcommittee made 3 very strong recommendations. The first and foremost is the adoption of the Positive Behavior Intervention Supports, PBIS, within all of our middle schools. As I shared at the last governing board meeting at the Code of Conduct, we have 2 full implementation schools as part of our pilot there this year, and several of our other middle schools that have many components of the PBIS already in place. So the recommendation for the task force to have full implementation as identified in your timeline beginning with the school year of 2012-13 will include moving forward with teaching the school-wide behavioral expectations, the school-wide system to recognize that positive behavior, and to use data when we're making our decisions around tiered interventions. In the action plan that you received earlier this evening, you'll see that training is already planned for March and April to get all of our middle school leaders on board and to continue that professional development beginning in June with our teachers. The integration of social and emotional learning goes hand in hand with our positive behavior intervention supports, as well as naturally goes into and integrates into our curriculum. It's important for our middle level learners for us to be able to teach students how to recognize and manage emotions and making the right decisions, appreciate the perspective of others, and establish positive relationships and handle conflict constructively. So that is something that we have to show our students how to do. It's easy to say what they need to do, but we need to incorporate social emotional learning so that we begin to show them and teach them what that looks like in different arenas. And last but not least, to support the culture and community subcommittee recommendation naturally is the professional learning focused on the uniqueness of the middle level learner, positive behavior intervention supports, and social emotional learning. Oops, I'm sorry, they made the 4th one, my mistake. And community collaboration to include identification of community resources and including our community partners in our schools to enforce school culture and activities. With that, the keys to educating young adolescents in terms of the curriculum instruction assessment team were grounded in that educators need to value young adolescents and are prepared to teach them, again, understanding that middle level learner. Students and teachers are engaged in active, purposeful learning. The challenging, exploratory, integrative, and relative curriculum. We often talk about rigor, relevance, and relationships goes alongside with that concept. Educators that use multiple learning and teaching approaches are differentiated learning and varied and ongoing assessments to advance learning as well as measure student learning. And that, again, is an underlying piece as recommended from culture and community is we need to measure what we're expecting. So just as we measure the discipline of the impact of our positive behavior intervention supports, we need to make sure we're using the tools to measure growth in our academic achievement. With that come 6 recommendations from the Curriculum Instruction and Assessment Committee. The first being focus on curriculum materials, specifically that looks at enhancing writing for all students. As we heard earlier from Dr. Benson's presentation, alignment to the Common Core standards is critical to support the depth and level expected with them. The recommendations that have come forth from the committee are specifically for us to look at a pre-advanced, pre-AP curriculum and Cambridge checkpoints. The blended learning, and we've talked a lot about blended learning, and I'm anxious and excited to see us beginning to incorporate blended learning beginning this fall in at least one content area. The teaching and learning team looked at the feasibility of moving forward with blended learning in one content area, and that would be, our recommendation would be in social studies. And that would be for the sole purposes of the access to timely events and digital media. Like the other subcommittees, increase in professional development opportunities, and here specifically more on the Common Core standards, the PARC assessment, the Partnerships for Assessment and Readiness for College and Career, the new assessment coming out of the Common Core, the teaching in a blended learning format, and best practices in instruction. Work with stakeholders to create a developmentally appropriate grading and homework policy for middle-level learners. We've been talking some time about balanced assessment, took a pause, and now are re-engaging a group of individuals to start talking about what homework really means and how we redefine our grading practices to ensure that we're grading what needs to be graded in terms of academic achievement and student growth. Embedded collaborative team time for teachers to share instructional practices is critical, as well as having that time to analyze data. The findings will be used to design meaningful instruction and differentiate assessment that allows students to demonstrate understanding of the standards. And last but not least, it was very important for this subcommittee to ensure equitable elective opportunities with a focus on world language. As Dr. Benson was mentioning earlier, we now have another opportunity for another elected coming forward, but one of the goals of this committee is to ensure that there is equity across all of our middle schools for access to different types of elective offerings. And so that's one thing that we really have to focus on and ensure that all of our students are able to access the elective courses, particularly when it's something like technology, when it touches absolutely everybody, as well as the world languages to ensure that we are ready for the trajectory of courses that are available now at our high school level with some of our satellite classes. Leadership and organization. This group really talked about the key, when they talked about the keys to educating young adolescents, it was a strong belief in the shared vision developed by all stakeholders. And again, that's how we began as a middle-level task force and continued that work with all of our middle-level schools, including RK8, which is in your packet. Leaders are committed to and knowledgeable about the age group. Educational research and best practices, so everything that we've talked about prior to now, understanding that middle-level learner and the best practices that were mentioned. Leaders demonstrate courage and collaboration. Ongoing professional development that reflects the educational best practices. Again, a common thread to what all of the subcommittees talked about, and organizational structures to foster purposeful learning and the meaningful relationships. The recommendations and meeting the needs of all kids, as I mentioned earlier, the social, emotional, and academic growth. The leadership and organization recommendations that came forth, the first and foremost is to staff in peer houses. This is a model that we had some time ago in SUSD. We can't confuse this with an extra prep, which I know we eliminated several years back because of the $1 million or more price tag. This has to do with staffing in pure houses, ensuring that our common students are associated with a group of teachers. So your 6th grade group has the same 4 core teachers to be able to work together, to collaborate together. This is not only foundational because teachers can work together and identify needed interventions and enrichments for students and provide and establish that one caring, connected adult, which it's easier to do when you've got this small cohort. But the Common Core standards at the middle level most focuses on the integration across all subject areas and the interdisciplinary and thematic units. So that is an area where we're going to need embedded professional time for our students or for our teachers to do that planning for our students to ensure that they have access to the Common Core standards. This type of organizational structure will also allow for advisory in our schools, as well as grade level lunches. Again, the smaller environment, getting students connected to caring adults has proven to be one of the best practices. With that, I'm just going to roll in again all of the professional development that we're talking about across the board. It's understanding that middle level learner, and I'll just say that it was nice to see at the end of the day on the recommendations all the consistency and continuity and the overlap, if you will, from the subcommittees. I guess great minds think alike. But understanding that middle level learner, the positive behavior intervention supports, the social emotional learning, the Common Core standards, the blended learning, etc. One of the recommendations from the task force had to do with ensuring that there was an adequate amount of instructional coach support. So right now we've got instructional coach support at some of our campuses funded by different monies, and the idea was to ensure that there was equity in resources and coaching at all of our middle schools. The team felt it was important to extend the professional workday or year, and that would allow for embedded collaborative team time, and also to ensure that we had a district approach to intervention and enrichment. And that would mean some type of supported studies and enrichment class offerings. So again, we talk about, access to all of the different elective offerings, but we also need to make sure that in terms of intervention and enrichment that we are able to systematically target our students. During the 11-12 school year, and this is of course in the packet that I shared with you, we continued to make forward movement on a variety of things. Specifically, our middle school visioning began with the middle level task force, and a team from the superintendent's leadership team has been working with our leaders, who then in turn have been working with their stakeholders on visioning and goals for their campuses. Refining our ECAPS process to include the middle schools, monitoring of our at-risk students, the quarterly communication to parents and guardians per the regulation we spoke about back in September, the alignment of the middle school planning guide to the high school planning guide, particularly to ensure the correct trajectory of math courses, especially with the new requirement of beginning with 2013 for the 4 years in math, as well as the world languages. Again, to ensure that we've got access to equal amount of offerings on the campuses. The middle school handbook is also under revision, as the same type of alignment needs to occur with the course offerings and some of the recommendations that I'm talking about tonight. We've been able to enhance our transition programming, more so the middle to high school, continuing to work on our elementary to middle, and we've had a Making College Happen series that not only talks about beginning to think about financially preparing for college, but what it takes in order to get into great schools and how to get scholarships and when to begin caring about your grades, which is now. And we've held these and are continuing to hold these at our middle school campuses throughout the spring. In summary, the ideal middle level school environment is a culture and climate of high expectations and comprehensive supports. It's taught and guided by teachers that value adolescence and ensure classroom curriculum and teaching strategies that are challenging, exploratory, integrative, and relative. It is structured for success, allowing for smaller team environments with ongoing embedded professional development and focus on intervention and remediation. With that, our next steps is tonight to gather from the governing board guidance in terms of prioritization of our recommendations. And in turn, I will take this back to the middle level task force and with the comments and suggestions and prioritizations and refine our action plans and bring those back to you. With that, any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Sakos. Mrs. Peterson.
This is excellent. Thank you. This was obviously a lot of work. I just have a couple of questions on the curriculum, and I guess this would also be in the priority category. The world language and just our exploratory options in general, including the technology we were just discussing, I would like to see us get some consistency through campuses. We seem to hear that a lot from parents that, oh, such and such middle school is offering whatever, Farsi, but my school only has Spanish in the 8th grade. So we do need to work on that. And to that end, where are we with e-learning for middle school?
Board Member Peterson, I will share with you, just to add on to the equity in courses, the other piece to that is ensuring that they're student-driven and interest-based. So
absolutely.
A lot of the time, and I mean, that's currently how we create our elective offerings at the high school level is through course registration. So we asked students, what is your first, second, and third?
Right.
And so part of that is we need to streamline those elective offerings, and then we need to let our middle level learners be able to make some choices and of course make sure that they've got a well-rounded offerings that they can take, but make sure that they have a say in what they're going to take. Specific to the online classes through e-learning, we are actually piloting right now this spring 2 online classes. The first one is our reading, and it's more of an enrichment course with Supai middle school students. And just today we identified the 2 courses that we're going to be offering this summer, both brick and mortar at a summer school campus and online, and that they are going to be our English language arts and math, and both of those will have components of study skills embedded within them.
And then hopefully even growing where we could do the other end for kids that want a little more challenge.
Right. And currently, right now, all of our campuses through community schools beginning this spring have the option for the reading enrichment courses. It is just more structured at Supai, and there was a strategic way in identifying those students. But we're already trying out those courses because they are courses. The virtual courses are the ones from Florida Virtual Learning. So they are ones that we're, again, our curriculum specialists are taking a very close look at to ensure alignment with middle level standards. But we've begun that and we'll continue this summer.
Perfect. And then with the homework and grading, I'm pleased to see that we're evaluating that to get some consistency. Along those lines, extra credit, I think desperately needs to be evaluated. The a roll of paper towels versus a report on Babylon. Or if you give me your bathroom passes at the end of the semester, you get extra credit. I just can't even believe that's healthy. I despise when I hear that, and I've heard that 1,000 times over the years. So
that's on the to-do list.
Right, that needs some desperate help. Additionally, with the counselors, will we still be doing where they're on a constant loop with the kids? So once they start with a child in 6th grade, typically they'll have them throughout their middle school years. Does every school do that?
It's dependent by school. So some of the counselors loop with them right now, and then other counselors keep their alpha. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Some of them will keep their grade level from year to year. So those will specialize in a freshman class, and that'll change year to year. Others stay with just the alpha, so the A through G or the S through Z.
The only thing I will say, I mean, certainly there are many other experts in this, but since we're going back to the house concept, it reminds me of days gone by. I know a very effective way it used to be done where literally the counselor starts with you in 6th grade. It's a whole 6th grade class, and they follow that class through 8th grade. So the counselor literally knows those kids by 8th grade, and there is that connection, which, as you said, was so critical. Mm-hmm. So, again, I don't know if every school does that or not, but I would think about it. The high school ready, yes, I think that needs to start in 5th grade. And especially communicating about our math track and everything else, letting parents know once you're off that track, it's virtually impossible to get back on. So everyone needs, I think, to understand those ramifications. The house models, Yahoo, I think that plays in nicely with our PLCs. The only question I have with doing the house models back in middle school, are science classes and the rest of our classes, are they aligned cap-wise as far as the number of students? No, still not? Because I know that was always our issue in scheduling that. But will this be 6th through 8th grade in the house model? Because we used to be 6th through 8, and then we lost all our money, and it had to only be 6 and 7. Or
Madam President, Mrs. Peterson, that's in the process. That's the next step, because we're going to have to figure out what the staffing model recommendation would be. We don't know just yet because we haven't played with the details, but we're going to try as best we can to get that consistency. Right now it varies quite a bit, especially with the science cap.
Okay. That would personally for me be on my priorities, just because I think that was such a critical piece of middle school for those kids having, and I think it could be the case for a lot of parents debating between K-8 versus 6-8, realizing that there's a little school within a school, that it's not quite so big and scary. I think that could make a difference. And then my only other remark, do we have any, I know we've talked lightly before about expanding our after-school activities to include 6th graders. Is that really reliant upon future conversations as far as configurations?
Madam President, Board Member Peterson, we are looking for intramurals to do that at things without the merging yet of them moving into the other middle school areas. Some are easier than others. We know track is very simple to do, so that's an easy one. We're having the discussions with our middle school athletic directors regarding the other areas and which other sports intramurals that we could incorporate into it.
I've just heard so many raves about how we do our sports now, where everybody gets to do it, and then there's the team. It would be nice to include 6th grade in that. Okay, otherwise, that's it for me. Thank you, Melissa.
Before I call on someone else to what you were talking about, can you define what the pure houses means?
The preliminary recommendation coming out of the leadership and organization, and I'll give an example, is that rather than staffing at 34-1 for our classes, and then of course adhering to the science class size as well, is taking a group of 170 students and ensuring that those 170 students have 4 content area teachers. And those 4 content area teachers have a common plan time in which, again, to plan for their curriculum integration, particularly the Common Core standards, to work on, what kids are showing continual need, and to collaborate on, wow, Johnny's having difficulty in, English language arts, science, math, we need to figure out a strategy to help them. So that is the ideal. Unfortunately, our 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade by middle level doesn't come in an easy 170 a number, so it will take some very creative planning to ensure that we can still somehow get a common set of teachers, at least the 4 content area teachers, to oversee about approximately 170 students. And then of course our teachers teach 5 periods, so you're probably wondering, well, what do we do when those 4 6th grade teachers are common planning? Well, then they're going out to their different elective opportunities, because there's different opportunities within those selected periods. So then you have your technology or your PE or your fine arts, and so there's again an opportunity for the electives and then for teachers to have that common plan.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Kirby?
Okay, thank you for your presentation. I think I need to take a step back, because I'm struggling with the presentation versus the tactics of how we're going to move the needle. Because when we started this, I think the question was, how do we ensure that our 8th graders are ready for high school? At least for me, that's what it was. How do we know that we are not passing along an 8th grader who has failed math, failed science, failed English, etc. And so I'm looking at the presentation, and I could really relate to some of Mrs. Peterson's comments. I could understand where she was going. And I'm going to use an example. So under culture and community, the presentation is every student's academic and personal development is guided by an adult advocate. Well, I hope so. I mean, that hopefully isn't a new aha for us. Now, when Mrs. Peterson supplements that with, is the counselor going to stay with them all the way through, or is it going to be by grade level? That's the tactic. And that's what I can get my mind wrapped around. So is that coming? Are the tactics of how we're going to achieve? And then how many tactics is it going to take to achieve everything that was presented? And then how much is all of that going to cost? Is that coming, or is this?
Let me answer one question at a time.
Okay.
Board Member President, Member Kirby, to answer the question about what we are doing to ensure that our 8th grade students right now, the class of 2016, are ready to move on to high school, is in that the 6th page from the bottom in the packet I handed out earlier today. We have moved, we refined our AER in terms of retention and promotion. We have had an intense tracking of all of our students and communicating to all of our parents, those that are in danger of failing. We've embedded, so that's the first piece, is that is in place now. We are outreaching to parents and families now saying, you understand that if you don't meet the standards in, 3 or fail classes in 3 or more of the content areas, you're not going to be promoted to our high schools. With that said, we've also ensured that we've embedded some interventions at the middle school level. To be honest, it's quite tough, in just a few months to ensure that the class of 2016 is 100% of them are all ready to move on. The middle level task force recommendations is going to ensure long-term success. So these strategies may be an aha for some. They're not an aha for many of us who have been in education for a while and understand the needs of middle level students. And so the tactics are really, they're embedded throughout everything that we continue to do. And so hopefully the action plans will pinpoint some of the things that are happening now in order to get our students that are college and career ready. I like the recommendation from Board Member Peterson in terms of, that is a piece that the middle level task force didn't look at in terms of ensuring that our counselors, loop with our students. So that is one recommendation that I will certainly take back.
So are those specific tactics coming back to us at another meeting to say, because what I heard you say is in the past 3 months, we've worked very hard with the current 8th graders and almost been very reactionary, somewhat just trying to get it fixed as quickly as we can. And what you're trying to do is make it part of every day, all day long, every year. But we need tactics to do that. And I mean, I don't know how you take what's in this presentation and you do make it part of every day for all of the teachers that we have out there, all of the counselors, all of the parents. What are those? And if you throw 500 things against the wall, only 3 of them are going to stick. So what are the most important tactics we're going to go after, and when will we hear what those are?
Okay.
That's a rhetorical. I don't think we know the answer yet. I think Board Member Peterson had a really good laundry list of a starting point. But when do we hear what the tactics are?
Well, after tonight's presentation, Board Member Kirby would, in terms of gathering the information and the recommendations from the board members, I will take that back to the task force and we will refine and modify our action plans. And I'll just take, for instance, the culture and community. That our #1 tactic is the implementation of positive behavior intervention supports across all of our middle schools and those with middle level learners. That is what we've done in 2 of our schools this year strategically. We've shown positive results in terms of keeping kids in the class, reducing suspension, and tied that to academic achievement. That is something that's happening now. That is our #1 tactic. The social and emotional learning is another critical piece that will be happening beginning the 2013 school year. That'll happen alongside and be embedded in with our student support services that we offer for students now, but we're going to ensure that we are utilizing a research-based effective program that meets the needs of middle-level adolescents. So I'm not sure if that gives you the level of detail that you're looking for, or maybe, you know, we need to go back and get more. You know, certainly we can do that. With the curriculum, instruction, and assessment, you know, we right now have courses in our schools, enrichment and remedial courses that are meeting the needs of our middle level learners. They're gathering data to measure the effectiveness and impact. So there's a number of things that are currently happening and a number of things we are recommending to ensure that, again, that we can look and solve the larger concern of fixing our middle schools, if you will. Because this is not a Scottsdale Unified School District concern. This is a national concern with understanding middle-level learners and being able to meet their individual needs. It's very challenging to do the way we have them staffed now and the way we're structured.
I also wanted to remind everybody that we gave autonomy to each of the learning communities to sort of figure this out on their own, and to try different things to see which one works the best. So I think at this point to say that this is what we're going to do across the whole district would sort of undermine some of the learning community work, wouldn't it?
Madam President and board members, this is truly a work in progress. If you remember, we first started down here and we thought this would take us a couple of years, and we all agreed we don't have a couple of years. So we said we've got to get this accomplished, and so we're trying to bite it off in manageable pieces that we then can move forward. So we've started some of this, but our goal is to take your input tonight, go back to the task force, talk with them, and then really develop that picture of what that middle school is going to look like. And that's our ultimate goal, is to be able to come back to you with that picture of, here is what we are going to have our middle schools and Scottsdale schools look like, and this is what it's going to take to make that happen. Our goal will have that to have that accomplished by the end of the year. So we will be back to you by the end of the year so that we can put these things in place in order to start school next year.
This school year or the calendar year?
No, the end of this school year, so that we can start in August moving forward.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Did you have any more questions, Mrs. Kerr?
No, I'm not sure what feedback, I mean, are you looking for feedback such as what Board Member Peterson gave you as far as let's have the counselors take the kids alpha and stay with them? Because I think that's a huge, that is a very important strategy to try to achieve. If you're looking for that kind of feedback, then I don't know, I'm not sure that this is the forum in which to give it. I'd like for you guys to tell us what are the tactics to achieve these goals versus have us brainstorm. My opinion.
Yeah, if I may just to that point, I mean, you make all really good points. My list, I think, was different only because, honestly, to tell you we've been discussing middle school since the beginning of time is a very accurate statement. So much of this is, you know, so I think my list is, and I'm sure Eric Meyer's list would be different versus, I think what you're looking for is more of a kind of a time in action, yes?
Well,
this is the plan and this is how we're going to do it.
I mean, if we've been discussing middle school since the beginning of time,
well, I mean,
what does that tell you about
honestly, my entire
seriously?
time on the, but in different ways. It's yes, 2 planning periods, no 2 planning periods. Yes, we want to do houses, no, we can't afford houses. I mean, we've kind of gone.
Let's pick a handful, we don't need to do wholesale changes. A handful of very impactful, meaningful changes, and let's implement them, and let's measure them, and let's hold ourselves accountable to them, and go forward with it. That's all I'm saying. This is a lot. Let's just pick the few things that make a difference, and then go make that difference.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown.
And to that, PBIS, positive behavior.
Intervention supports.
Yeah, that. Yeah. So I had a personal experience with that. I know this 7th grader, little bump and run on the football field. And in the past, that would have been 3-day suspension, in class or in-house suspension, whatever you guys called it. And Julie Boots met the parent out on the curb and said, this is what happened, and we're going to take a look at this. And our goal is to get everybody back in class and make it good for all. The next day, I met that student, and I said, so how'd it go? He goes, we shook hands, we said, we're sorry, and that was it, Dad. But I just want to acknowledge that Julie Boots was awesome. Now, moving on, so you're asking middle schoolers what they want to do in terms of electives. So every middle school has a different choice. Well, I may not know what I want to do, and if somebody doesn't, if you had a counselor that was running all through your middle school years, they might be able to say, you know, you should try this and expand horizons, or else you're just kind of, you know, working in your own world. And PBIS, is that at all middle schools?
There are, Board Member Brown, there are components of PBIS at the majority of our middle schools. The 2 middle schools that had we began the full implementation with this year through a very structured training and implementation model was Supai and Mojave. But again, you know, we're looking for the gold standards in all of our middle schools to ensure that beginning 2012-13, we can call ourselves full PBIS schools, and we've got all of those critical components in place, one of which is the data-driven decision making. And to your point about middle-level kids not knowing perhaps what they are interested in, that's one of the primary reasons why we backed up our ECAPs. And through Naviance, we are beginning those earlier on, we're beginning the career interest inventories, the personality inventories that help middle-level students begin to think about what they might be interested in.
And who would ask that question? I mean, who would ask the student when we talk about that?
Well, through their counselors, what they do is counselors embed, they look at the different grade levels and content areas within a middle school and say it's, you know, resume writing. They'll go to English language arts and deliver the lesson on, you know, resume writing. They may go to an elective and do something on interest inventory. So it's a counselor going in, taking over a period or 2 class in order to have students go through the process of that type of assessment. And the career and interest inventory, the career keys, the one I'm speaking of, is one that's often done in the computer lab.
So this is once again why our ratio of counselors to students is critical, because they can identify, and if they travel with a little human clear through that experience, that's massive. All right, thank you, great job, a lot of information.
Dr. Meyer?
Thank you. And this is to follow up on all the comments. You've done a lot of work and research, and all of and I think you have offered some changes that you're making, the houses, the PBIS, the blended learning. Those are all things that, if implemented correctly, can have a positive impact on academic performance. So what maybe we need to know is, you know, why the choice of the houses and how that's going to improve academic performance for each of our kids. How that will look for teacher professional development, and how kids will be identified. You know, you talked, and maybe you gave some of that in the packet that you handed us earlier this evening, but you know, how when a kid isn't doing well, it sounds like there's a way to identify them. Right now we're using the 3 Fs, which for me is the lowest standard, because 3 Fs and 3 Ds, or 2 Fs and 4 Ds isn't good. So those kids will need intervention. But how that house model, because we have had this discussion about houses, and I know there's research on that. I just don't personally know what it showed. But it's supposed to be good. You know, the smaller the school for this particular age kid helps them do better. And then how we're going to implement the blended learning, and potentially how that will be self-guided in some kid situation, and allow the teacher some free time to work with those other kids that need more help, and how that's going to improve academic performance. So I think just painting that picture for us, because you guys have been meeting for months, and you know all this stuff, and we don't. So and we're here to go, oh, this is great, which I think it will be, but maybe we just need a little more help on. And then I agree that we're going to need your recommendations on what to implement first. The counselor issue starting in 5th grade or 6th grade, and how that's going to flow all the way through high school, and how Naviance is going to work for each of our kids. And I'd also just personally like to see how we communicate this to our parents, because and why the change is good, why that change is going to improve academic performance for the kids. And that, because that's the kind of questions we get too. Well, why are you making all these changes? And I just need to be able to say, well, the homes will help with this, the counselors will help with this, the blended learning will help in this way, because you do this every day, and we just do it once a month for an hour or two. So those kind of things would help us, and maybe see what your big picture is and where you're going. So I like all the ideas, just need a little more help getting to that next step, and you're asking for us to approve this tonight, but I agree that we need. Oh yeah, another information discussion. You're asking for us to give you guidance. I'll use the appropriate terminology, and so in order to do that, at least I trust your thought processes, and you spent a lot of time on this. You can just tell us how we're going to get there, and again, how much it's going to cost. Go ahead. Yeah.
And how do we measure success? And when do we start measuring? Is it after one entire year? Is it after semester? I think that's extremely important.
Right. And along the way, whether it's data we're collecting, and it sounds like we're going to implement a whole bunch of changes at once, so we won't really know which one was the successful one, which isn't important as long as we're successful. So those are my comments. Thank you. And then you can respond in any way, but thanks.
Sure. I'll just briefly respond, Board Member Meyer. Specific, and I'm just going to use one example, but specific to the culture and community, in the packet, you can see that the objectives are laid out, and there are measures there that are going to help us measure exactly, and that was in the packet I handed out earlier tonight. What we're planning on using to measure our success, and again, I think I use the PBIS so often because it's fresh in all of our minds, and you were able to see that concrete data. So again, that is the type of measurement that we would use, along with climate surveys, to see if the implementation is making an impact, one, on discipline, or out-of-school suspensions, keeping kids in the classroom, reducing disruptions during instructional time, and then, of course, continuing to progress monitor that along the way. So the action plans are definitely, I know it's not a quick snapshot of all the different tactics. It's embedded within, so perhaps what I'll do is take this back and make it a little bit more comprehensive, and see where we go from there.
One of the things that I would like to see would be the impact on the fine arts opportunities, because with Algebra 1 coming down into the middle school, and then required technology or computer course, and then the world languages, I'm wondering if there's going to be time for sequential arts learning for students if they so choose.
Okay.
To that point, I think it coordinated with the extracurriculars, with other online opportunities, or maybe part of what we do with the blended learning in some way incorporates those things. I mean, there's all kinds of opportunities that we have now that we have technology in the classroom, and the campuses that we'll have at all our middle schools. So just how that's all going to fit together in that big picture, to have well-rounded students that are prepared for high school.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Who's next?
Okay.
Run. I wasn't get the next person ready. Is this Dr. Peterson?
Next action
Trying
item.
to be a respectful little. There we go.
Approval of agreement with DC Ranch Village Health Clubs and Spas for DC Ranch School site at Copper Ridge.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. This evening I'm bringing forth to you an opportunity that Scottsdale School has that I think is a great opportunity, and it's with the Village Health Clubs at the DC Ranch along with the DMB development. We've been working, looking at some opportunities up in the DC Ranch area with the Village Health Club's tennis facility. DC Ranch has proposed to lease land from Scottsdale School District. They would like to have a group of 10 private tennis courts be constructed and utilized by the health club members. And it would also provide for potential future use by Scottsdale School students for both our tennis team and school PE classes. The overall impact would truly benefit future grade 9 through 12 students on the property. The property is 18 acres that we bought for $1 an acre from DMB, with the understanding that we would be constructing some type of grade 9 through 12 facility there prior to the 2018 year. The proposed facility is on 4 acres on the far west side of the 18 acres that we bought, and I'll show you that in a minute. We would be able to see a positive income of $40,000 a year to the school district for utilization of this leased property, and we would be able to coordinate use for our students. In addition to this, we would have an additional soccer and lacrosse field that would be added to the property that we'd be able to utilize for our students. And then I believe the community and Parks and Recs would also be interested in that. This aerial photo shows you the DC Ranch area and the Copper Ridge School. It shows you the subject property, that's the 18 acres that we bought. And then just down Thompson Peak Parkway is the Village Health Club that those members were the ones that would be utilizing this tennis facility that's being proposed. This photo shows the property a little closer in proximity to the Copper Ridge School facility, along with the green rectangle there is the actual approximate tennis facility that would be constructed there. You can see the road that goes through the middle of the subject property is what we built in order to have a second access to Copper Ridge, also to take care of the traffic issues, and that has solved our traffic issues at Copper Ridge. This is a graphic of what the 10 tennis courts would look like. They would have a clubhouse, 10 tennis courts, their own parking coming off that middle road that we built. And then you can see on the right side there is a soccer lacrosse field that we would have that would be built as part of this. The proposal is the Village Health Club would build the facility. They would do all the improvements at their cost. They would like to enter into a 5-year lease with 5 additional 5-year renewals, so that if they put this investment, which is over $1 million, into this property, they want to make sure that they're able to utilize it over the life of the facility for the benefit of their members. But also it would give us the ability, as we move forward, looking at a future facility, to allow students to have this for PE classes, and then also during the tennis season we'd be able to use the facility for our tennis team in order for them to practice and have their competition. So that is the proposal I'm bringing forth to this evening, and I would ask for any discussion.
Mrs. Peterson.
I'm sorry, thank you. David, thank you. I did have just a quick question that came to mind. I know we have the agreement for by 2018.
Yes.
Okay, what happens, let's just say for argument's sake, by 2018 if we don't build, what happens to this land, the whole matter?
Right now, according to the agreement, the lease, the purchase agreement that we had, if we do not begin construction of a facility by 2018, the land would revert back to the DMB.
And what happens to Village then?
Their lease, the lease would go then to the DMB partners.
Okay, and then on the other side of the coin, let's say we did build, and you said high school students could use this.
Yes.
How would that work with the Village, which you paid a nice price for, and then having high school kids coming in for PE class while you've got a membership at this nice club?
Yes, Madam President, Board Member Peterson, that's something we've been discussing with them to have in the lease, that we would have designated times that we would be able to utilize it, so they would have that posted with their members. and that would be a condition, and they've agreed that, also they've said that a lot of the members, their students that are there are family members, so they believe that it would be used in conjunction with their own family memberships.
Okay, all right, thank you.
The questions? Oh, Dr. Meyer?
Just to follow up on Peterson's questions. In 2018, DMB would assume the lease. How long is the lease?
Well, right now, Madam President, Board Member Meyer, the lease currently by law we can only enter into 5-year leases. So the agreement is to have 5-year leases with renewals for additional 5 years, and I believe there's 4 or 5 renewals in there, so that it would be a total of like 25-year agreement right now.
But does DMB, if we sign a 5-year lease now, and then another 5-year lease at 2017, then they would have to honor the 4 years of that lease? Is that?
Madam President, Board Member Meyer, yes, and that DMB brought the Village Health Club to us because they want this as part of their master plan for DC Ranch. Originally, the City of Scottsdale was going to build tennis facilities up in that area. That is no longer viable based on the City of Scottsdale's Parks and Rec bond. So DMB understands that, and they understand that if the property reverts back to them, they would be honoring that lease with the Village Health Club.
For the remaining 5 years of the remaining 19 years?
Board Member Meyer, I would imagine they would probably then go into a long-term lease with them. They would not have to do the renewals as we're compelled to have to do.
And is the price renegotiable, or is the $40,000 locked in for 25 years?
Right now, the $40,000 is locked in. We did have an appraisal done of the property, so we were able to get a market value, and we feel that that's a fair value, especially with the use of being able to use that facility for our students in the future. Again, that would save us significant capital dollars of not having us go ahead and build something.
And then and this relates to Jennifer's question too, so how do we protect our students from a safety standpoint? So is the contract structured so that if we're going to use the facilities from, say, 10 to noon every day for PE, will all their employees leave and our coaches or our teachers will come over, or how will that work?
Madam President, Board Member Meyer, we haven't gotten to that final point yet. That would be something we would negotiate in the final lease to move forward. I would say that it would be a responsibility for our teaching staff to be there to oversee our students, but I would not see their on-site staff leaving at that point. We would have our students there and be in overall supervision by our own teachers.
And then there's a clubhouse there, so our students I'm imagining it'll be open, but our students won't use the clubhouse, or they will use. I mean, I'm just.
Board Member Meyer, our feeling would be that the only use of the clubhouse would be the restroom facilities. So if our students need to go to the bathroom, they would have the ability to utilize the restroom facility.
Mrs. Kirby.
Okay, thank you. This is an easy question. Maintenance, ongoing maintenance, who's responsible for the clubhouse and the tennis courts?
Board Member Kirby, that would be the Village
Okay,
Health Club.
that's part of the lease.
That is correct.
So I'm looking at exhibit A Part 1. What about parking? Is the traffic going to interfere with the traffic coming into the school, or is it totally separate? Is there parking on this land?
On the current, Board Member Kirby, on the current slide, you can see the parking is right there below the clubhouse. They have their own parking that's self-contained.
At the grade?
within
Okay,
the few-
so I see
yes.
the road coming in.
Yes.
And that's a new parking?
Yes, that'll all be part of that facility. The school is up in the top right. You don't see it in this area.
But wait, traffic-wise though, to her point, there's not, because the traffic is already a problem up there.
Well, not anymore. We've solved the traffic with the road that we put in, so that you can see in this picture right through the middle of the subject property, that gray area. See the road that goes right through there? That's the road that we built that now has solved the traffic issue at Copper Ridge.
Okay, and then the soccer field is a new field, correct, or is it existing?
No, that is correct, Board Member Kirby. Right now, you can see this picture shows that's all desert land there.
Okay.
In that gray area, and so they would
That's
improve that.
They're
and
going
make
to improve that
They
as
would
part of this
improve that
deal.
as part of the construction.
And then who would then be responsible for the maintenance?
We would
of
be
it?
responsible for that.
And then if we enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Scottsdale and it goes into their pool of parks, community parks and rec, I think is what you said. Remind me of what that maintenance agreement looks like? Do we still maintain?
Yes, ma'am. Currently, the City of Scottsdale provides funding for us to have several grounds people that are dedicated to the fields that are used by the Parks and Recs, but we own them.
Okay.
Because they have a lot of wear and tear.
Right.
And so this would go under that agreement, and we would ask for additional dollars for sprinklers and fertilizer and those types of things in order to cover that field.
This is one full-size field?
That is correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Peterson. If there's no more questions, then I will go ahead and move that it is recommended that the governing board approve the agreement with DC Ranch Village Health Club and Spas for the DC Ranch school site at Copper Ridge. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's 5-0, so the motion carries. And the next item on the action agenda is district reorganization, which will be again presented by Dr. Peterson.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. This evening I am very pleased to be able to present to you my proposed organizational alignment for the Scottsdale Unified School District. This has truly been a project that I've worked on for quite a while. I've talked to a lot of individuals, gotten a lot of input, and you know, I kind of joke, but I'm on kind of reorg 18.0. We've really worked a lot to try to see where we feel we need to be positioned. And truly, I believe as leaders, we must shape the work of our organization. And doing that, we have to hire, retain, and develop highly effective employees for every single position that we have. In some areas, we have to align services, the administration, student services, and e-learning. We have to facilitate economies of scale where possible in order to have efficient and effective use. I believe we should have no disruption of educational programs. We need to promote educational programs. And we need to improve fiscal status. And that means reduce expenditures. I can honestly say that I did not enter into this reorganization idea with the plan of trying to save money. That was not my goal. My goal was to do what's best for Scottsdale School District. The bonus is we are going to be saving a little bit of dollars at the end of the day. Truly, our vision and our mission is what guides us, and our tagline to engage, educate, and empower every student every day is something that we hold dear, and it's something that we will make sure that we continue as we move forward as an organization. Our values of excellence, collaboration, leadership, character, and creativity are what allows us to carry out our plan, and our strategic plan has strategic areas and goal statements that I am making sure that we meet as we move forward with the reorganization in the Scottsdale School District. I believe that our district truly is on a threshold of a new era. The energy and talents of our teachers, administrators, parents, students, and our community has to be focused on school improvement, and we're going to be able to create synergy on a scale that will enable us to achieve excellence for all students. And that's really our goal. You heard about that at our middle schools tonight. We want to make sure that all students are successful. In order to support hard work and commitment of all of our stakeholders are key elements. And I am looking to have opportunities to capture economies of scale and reduce or eliminate duplicative efforts. I'm looking to streamline processes and to empower staff to make local decisions. And I know that few, if any, of these initiatives will survive without the moral and resource support of the people at the top of the organization, which is why I need the approval of our school board in order to move forward. I also believe that succession planning is now shifting to project planning with key talent. In other words, using many individuals that are being sought for key roles that are willing to be as fully cross-trained as possible. I am not looking to have people that are just experts in one area. I am looking to them to be able to fully be integrated and being able to work together and collaboratively and work. So that, yes, we do have titles, but titles aren't important. It's more of that testimony. It's more that what we do and how we show what we're supposed to be doing out there as we work together. The best succession planning is based on full-scale competency. It's not archiving present knowledge and rewriting job descriptions. It's taking new ideas and putting those into future innovation, and that's what we're going to be looking at trying to accomplish. I believe that my leadership team, in order to be successful, will be measured by the extent to which we improve the education of students. And successful collaboration will allow for a commitment to unity on the part of all members, will provide a chance to learn from and work with others. We will act together toward common goals. We will deal with conflict openly and consider differences of opinion. We will be efficient and productive. We will share in accomplishments equally and proudly, and we will provide opportunities for feedback. We will have a greater focus on serving students. We will be more flexible, and we'll have more capacity to serve our students. There will be more specialization of programs, and there will be more opportunities for curriculum staff development. My recommended organization plan starts with our community. Our community is really a key focal point. We go to our community to ask for their support, for their dollars, for their volunteerism, for them to send their students and entrust us with their students. And then right below our community is the governing board, because the governing board is elected by our community. Below that, as superintendent, I am responsible both to the governing board and to our community, but also to our staff and our students. Our general counsel is responsible to the governing board, but also works with the superintendent. And under the general counsel is the risk management. That's our areas where we take care of our liability, our workers' comp, and those areas that fit into our risk management mission. The senior executive coordinator is Sandra. She works both with me and supporting the governing board. Below that tier is a new area that I'm looking to create, and that's the associate superintendent position. That position will have reporting to them the athletic director that this coming year would be a half-time position as we transition. Cliff McKenzie has agreed to look to retire and to move into a half-time position in order to do some transitions with us. I'm looking at the executive director of community schools and AOI. That's both community schools for our preschool areas, our summer programs, our enrichment, our after-school programs, but also our AOI students, which are all of our online students that are outside the district. These are every student in rural Arizona, in Tucson, in Phoenix, Flagstaff, anywhere that a student outside the school district would come and take a class from us. Our executive director of student services, grants, and homebound. I'm looking to have a focus on our student services, but also on grants. We've gotten some grants, but the grants we've gotten haven't really been the grants that I read about that other districts are securing in order to be successful and move forward. We need to have a concentrated effort in that area. We also need to make sure we continue to serve our homebound students. Some we may be able to serve through e-learning, but some we actually have to have that interaction between a teacher and a student. Director of Special Education will report to the Associate Superintendent. Again, this is a department that needs direct support. This is a department that we are looking to really make sure that we do things efficiently and properly to serve our students and make sure that we're following our laws, but at the same time making sure we understand our expenditures, because we have a large expenditure in that area. Director of Alternative Education. These are our programs to reach our students that are not able to operate in a normal high school environment. We've been operating at the Sierra Vista Academy, or Sierra Vista School, and we'll be looking to change that to our Cholla campus and being able to support our students, but also trying to get them back to school if they're able to do that. And also go out and try to work with our executive director of e-learning in order to bring in our students that have dropped out. We need to do a better job of going and reaching back to our students that have left us and trying to get them back and trying to get them on track so they can be successful. Our Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources is a current position, but I'm looking to realign to have a Director of Staffing and Centralized Enrollment. Those two areas go directly hand in hand. Our staffing is driven by our enrollment, and our enrollment drives our staffing. So we need to make sure that those two are done appropriately, that we're able to properly determine what our areas are for our enrollment, to make sure we have that taken care of, the capacity of our schools, and then make sure we have the appropriate staff for our programs. I'm Employee Relations Certified and Employee Relations Classified. Currently, we have an Employee Relations individual. Clay McAllister did retire, and we need to make sure that we service all of our employees. Currently, we do a pretty good job with our certified, but our classified we haven't done as good a job with, and we need to make sure that we honor them. About half of our employees are our classified employees, and they serve a vital mission. We need to make sure that these individuals are able to help them, support them. Both of these individuals would be responsible for the respective meet and confer. So the employee relations certified individual would be responsible for the certified meet and confer, and then the classified employee relations would head up our classified employee meet and confer process. But they also would take care of the grievances. They also would take care of any of the other issues that those individuals need. They would take care of the hiring, making sure that those positions are in the system, making sure that it's the right positions, and working through that area. Our benefits and iVision's project manager, that's a current position we have, and then professional development. As we move forward, Career Ladder is being phased out, and we need to make sure that we have our professional development taken care of. So basically, we'll be absorbing our Career Ladder program into our professional development area. The Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning, we currently have that position, but I'm looking to realign our executive directors in those areas, have the executive director of elementary and assessment, and then have an executive director of secondary and achievement also. So those two executive directors would work together regarding achievement and accountability in our schools, but they also would be responsible for the elementary and the secondary schools, working with those principals and with those teachers, sharing that data and understanding where we're going. As we bring the Common Core on, we need to understand even better what our school performance is. Our Director of Curriculum would be under the Teaching and Learning, Director of Gifted and Avid, Director of Language Acquisition, and Director of CTE and Federal Grants. Our Chief Technology Officer, we currently have Tom Clark as our Executive Director of Technology. I think more appropriately is the title of Chief Technology Officer. Tom's done a great job, and he will be able to help us move forward in that. We currently have a network supervisor, currently have computer tech supervisor, support software, data warehouse, but I'm looking to add a Director of Instructional Technology. As you heard, technology is not going away, it's increasing. We need to make sure that we do it right. We need to make sure that our students and our teachers have the proper tools, the proper curriculum, the proper software, and the proper instructional methodologies to make sure that we are taking care of our learners as we move into be 21st century learners. So I'm looking to add that position. Executive Director of Community Relations and Marketing, we currently have that, and under that area is public information, the webmaster, and advertising. In the CFO position, we currently have my old position. I took care of a couple of roles. One was CFO and one was the facilities and operations. And I am not looking to rehire my position. Instead, I'm looking to move that to the associate superintendent position so that then I would be able to elevate Sherry Salaya into the CFO position. She would also currently is responsible for finance and budget, payroll, student funds, and rentals. And then I would be looking to align nutritional services under the CFO area. And the reason there is several. First of all, our nutritional services operations are about a $12 million function. That's financially, that's important to have that in that arena. Second of all, they are located here within the education center, so it makes sense to have the person working with them that is in close proximity. Our Executive Director of Facilities and Operations, Rick's doing a great job. I'm looking to have our purchasing and warehouse move under him. Again, part of that is because of location. It's down on San Salvador. But also a lot of the purchasing that takes place has to do with the major purchases that take place in maintenance, transportation, facilities in those areas. So it makes sense to have that aligned in that area. Building services is currently aligned there. Transportation, construction, facility planning, and security and school safety. Looking a little further into some of these positions, the Executive Director of Community Schools and AOI would have the early childhood programs at Cholla and Oak, our Kids Club, childcare, enrichment, summer school, operations and licensing that we have to do in order to have all of our programs licensed by the state, and then the overall AOI program, registration, testing, transcript coordination, IT program coordination, and the teachers that work under that area. They would also be working directly with our Executive Director for e-learning, and I apologize, that middle slide there's a typo there. But the Executive Director of E-Learning, Leadership and Development is responsible for the teachers in e-learning, counselors and testing for all of our students that support our students within the district, IT project manager, registrar and administration, support staff in our labs, and also credit recovery. We need to do a much better job of credit recovery for our own students, and we're going to focus on that. Our Executive Director of Secondary and Achievement will be responsible for our high school principals, our middle school principals, our guidance, both our career and college and our actual school counselors, our middle school and high school accountability, and the record-keeping guidelines. The Executive Director of Elementary and Achievement, responsible for all of elementary school principals, research and evaluation, ADM reporting, testing, and the SIMR department. Executive Director of Student Services, Homebound and Grants would be responsible for our health services, our support services, that's our social workers, our Scottsdale Prevention Institute initiatives, intervention services, grants coordinator, which we have to really expand upon in order to position ourselves well as we move forward, 504 coordinator, the interface with our SROs with the city, both City of Phoenix and City of Scottsdale, clinical services, the McKinney-Vento coordinator, and homebound coordinator. And then our instructional technology director would be located at the MDA. The director would have the 4 instructional technology coaches under this individual, and really this individual would poise us to be ready to truly have our students not only be learners but be teachers, because our students grasp technology so much better. They can also help us learn as we move forward together. We do have some reductions of staff. As I said, several of the positions are going to be collapsed. So we do have some savings there, about 4.5 FTE, $497,000 in savings. But those savings are going to be utilized as I look to add positions. So I've reduced, but I've also added some positions in order to be strategic. So I'm proposing 5.4 FTE of positions of $445,000. And then some adjustments for some of the individuals as they take on new roles and duties and responsibilities. I believe it's only appropriate that we would make some adjustments there. Looking at that as a whole, we would have a net of 1 FTE increase. So for all the organization that I'm planning to realign to put us in the forefront, and basically to have technology both in the district and outside the district, instructional technology, our AOI learning, we would have a net of 1 FTE, but we would see a total cost savings of $52,000. So I think that's pretty remarkable that in order to position us where we need to be, we would be able to save $52,000, but we would have a net increase of 1 FTE. Also, we have some open positions that will be posted and have been posted, and they'll be interviewed for. The Executive Director of Secondary and Achievement would be posted. The principal at Coronado High School, as we have some movement take place. The principal at Pueblo Elementary School position. Both the principal at Cheyenne and Pima, both of those school positions have been posted. They've closed, and we're now starting to go through the hiring process for those 2 positions. The assistant principal at Hohokam Elementary School, and then 2 assistant principal positions at Chaparral High School would be posted, and we would search out and interview for those positions. That concludes my recommendation and my request to move forward as Scottsdale School District and have my reorganization plan approved.
Questions from the board? Thank you, Dr. Peterson.
Thank you.
Mrs. Peterson.
Dr. Peterson, thank you very much, by the way. I know this has been, you've given this considerable thought, and I do appreciate your kind of taking us along the journey with this. It has been ever evolving every week. I know when looking at this, and you and I discussed this earlier, I know it's technically only 1 more FTE. It feels like it's a lot more. Why would that be? It feels like a lot more people.
It does, Madam President, Board Member Peterson, it does feel like more people, and again, it's because I did not go in great detail about the positions that I've eliminated. They're on the slide, and those positions that we have created are not here in the Ed Center. They're out there to serve students, so they'll be based at the MDA, they'll be based at the Oak Annex, and they will truly be serving our students in the capacities that we need to move forward in the district.
So then the next question, how do you feel this improves achievement by approving this?
Great question. I believe in a couple arenas. First and foremost, technology. We know that we have to make sure that we are on the forefront of technology with our students. We know that we have to be positioned well. We were approved as an AOI provider. We have to make sure that we are structured to provide online instruction to students outside the district, because That's ADM for us. Those are dollars and revenues that we'll be able to help shore up our budget. By looking at the executive directors for elementary and secondary, by having those folks also responsible for achievement, they are the ones that will directly be working to bring out that assessment data, to bring out those benchmark data, to share that with our teachers. Currently, Dr. McNeil does a great job of doing that, but he's going to take those skills in my proposal and be the elementary executive director that will be able to take that and work directly with those principals to help. My goal would be that every principal and then eventually every teacher would be able to, down the road, pull their data. But you still need somebody to kind of bounce that off, to look at the big picture, to be able to say, gosh, this school's doing good and this school, maybe it's not doing as well. What's the difference? How can we improve? How can we be more collaborative? So I need somebody to be able to analyze that, look across all of our districts and work with our principals. Same thing in the secondary arena. I need somebody who can concentrate on the secondary arena, take that achievement data, work with our teachers, work with our principals, and make that happen. In our employee relations area, I need an individual, because if we have employees that feel valued, they're going to make sure they give it their all to us. I've got to make sure that our employees feel they're valued. So I feel that we need to have a certified and classified employee relations so our employees truly feel that they're valued and their voice is heard. And I've heard that from our classified folks. A lot of times we don't think about that, but our bus drivers make a difference. Our cafeteria workers make a difference. Our maintenance folks make a difference. And truly, our paraprofessionals make a huge difference in those classrooms. And so we need to make sure we reach them and have that happen. So I believe the people we're putting in place are going to allow us to maximize learning, to understand where we're going, and then to make sure we can get there.
And I have one little ticky question. I know e-learning is under the associate superintendent. My only question mark, I hope, I don't know, either it goes under, I'm not telling you to move it under teacher and learning, but I'm hoping those two individuals are working well together, because I feel like e-learning, we're maybe dancing down a path of credit recovery and I was hopeful personally that e-learning would be much more expansive.
Well, it is.
We could do so much more
Madam
with
President, Board Member Peterson, you're exactly right. It's going to be so much more. It's going to be AP, so kids that want to take additional classes. It's going to be support for students that need support. It's going to be credit recovery for students that need that credit recovery. It's going to be explosive. And truly, that's why we need to have a person dedicated to that. And you're absolutely correct. Although we have these areas for reporting purposes per se, because somebody needs to write the evaluations and somebody needs to approve their vacations and those types of things, these are not silos. And I've had that discussion quite a bit with our learning team, that in fact, we don't have fences. We work together across the board. And that's why I talked earlier about making sure that we understand that we're going to be able to function in multiple roles, and we're going to truly have that collaboration.
David, I just want to say I support you as superintendent. You're a brand new superintendent. I know you've put a lot of thought into this, so yes, I personally will be supporting this because I want to support the direction you want to go in. I just want to add a caution. I would be prepared as you're traveling to schools and there are 37 kids in a classroom to explain, no, we've saved money here, this is what's going on. So just a little piece of advice.
Yes,
I would
ma'am.
just
Thank
keep that
you.
in mind as you go forward.
Yes.
Thank you.
Dr. Meyer?
Thank you. Professional development, we at one point had a director of professional development. I'm just looked through all this and I didn't see how that's going to be also a focus for our teachers. So how, we brought most of that stuff in-house, and I'm sure it's here somewhere. If you can just elaborate a little more for me.
Board Member Meyer, yes, we are looking. We had a director of professional development, and then we sort of collapsed that when Dr. Benson took over the curriculum area. She also kind of kept those duties and things. Andy was doing them prior to that, and curriculum with the Common Core and those things coming on, it really needs to be a focus with curriculum and professional development to be done right. Not only are we going to all be responsible for it, but we need a person who's spearheading that. And as Career Ladder, that's kind of been the chief or main mechanism for professional development for our certified staff, as that gets phased out, we need to migrate some of those things that we're doing in the career ladder area into professional development. At the same time, we have to expand professional development. And I actually like to call it professional learning more than professional development, because I truly believe it's learning. We are having to learn a lot more. And so we do have that position, and it will be migrated between those two that we currently have.
So now it'll go between the executive directors of elementary achievement? No.
No.
Okay.
It's under HR, the very bottom box.
Oh, there it is. Ah, because I was looking under, okay. And so whose responsibility will that become?
I'm looking to have Wendy Allen take that position. She's currently our director of Career Ladder.
And some of these things aren't people, like payroll. Those are just.
That is correct.
So those are responsibilities underneath Sherry.
That is correct.
So when you look at,
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
you look at all
That
these,
makes-
you look
Yes.
at all these boxes, and they aren't necessarily hires or people. It's a responsibility, and then there are people that obviously work in payroll, and we need to have payroll. So.
And again, Madam President, members of the board, that's the tough thing about having an organizational chart, because if you only put certain direct reports on there, then people say you're trying to hide things. If you try to be transparent and put departments and things, then they say, my God, you got a ton of people there. So it's
Right.
it's tough. So I tried to streamline it as much as I could, but trying not to hide anything, because I truly want people to understand this is where we're at.
Thank you.
Mrs. Kirby.
Thanks, David. You know, one thing we talked about, maybe you said it in your presentation, I don't think you did, and you probably didn't because you typically are pretty humble when you do these things, that there's one big piece that's not on here, that's not reflected, and that's all the work that you personally do down at the state capitol with the legislature. And, you know, you are viewed in the state of Arizona as the go-to person among superintendents in that area. And so I would also encourage you, to Ms. Board Member Peterson's point, to add that to this presentation when you go out into the schools, because it's incredibly important right now in this day and age.
Thank you, Madam President, Board Member Kirby. I will add that. That's a great suggestion. And I thought we were pretty well respected until last week with the Education Committee, but I think we made a good point down there.
It's a nice drive, yeah.
Mr. Brown.
You're awesome, dude. This is great. It's great to see your vision, the way you can map things out and put all these pieces together. Really, that's why we like you a lot.
Thank you.
And I realize how much work you've put into this, and I just wanted to let people know that Dr. Peterson was very eager to announce to people if this was approved by the board. He was very eager to announce the placement, and I actually was the one that asked him to separate the people from the structure so that things didn't get mixed up and in people's minds. And so that was part of the reason why I really think that it's up to you to decide. It's up to us to decide what the structure is, up to you to decide what talent fits each one. And
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I do appreciate all the work that you've put into
Thank you.
it. Thank you. So if there's no further comment, I will move that the governing board approve the agreement with DC Ranch. Oh, sorry, wrong one. I think we did that one already. Approve the reorganization of the district as presented by Dr. Peterson. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That would be 5-0, so the motion carries. Okay, thank you very much. At this time, is there any future action? I wanted to include the advertising video so that we can talk to Carla about it. Anything else? Mrs. Peterson?
Yes, I actually would, but perhaps in the summer or in the next several months, an update on e-learning, our offerings, where we are with that.
Mrs. Kirby.
Sorry, I would like to add the K-8 work that we're doing. K-8, yeah.
Okay, Dr. Meyer.
And I know Cliff had a meeting with boosters this week, and we had talked earlier in the year about looking at our athletic policies concerning grades as well. So it would be good, in my mind, to have that in place before the next academic year starts. Well, I think it should be all-inclusive. And it's not just athletics, it's extracurriculars, actually. So whether you're drama, because I think we want to send a message that, yeah, our priorities are about academic achievement.
Okay, great ideas. Thank you so much. Do we have any governing board reports? Mr. Brown.
I've been thrust into the very weird world of technology, and so I was invited along with Ms. Sneed to a, what'd you call it, a forum?
It was the Workforce Development Committee.
Workforce Development, and where the major discussion was around the Lego program and the robotics programs. This is athletics for the brain, and these kids are doing remarkable things, and it covers such a broad range of education and learning that I think it needs attention. And I would like to see the district put more positive focus on these kind of programs and throw some dollars at it if we had them.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any other board reports? Governing board reports? I just wanted to thank Anasazi Elementary for inviting me out to their Liberty Wildlife presentation and Schoolhouse Rocks. It took me back to when my kids were little. I knew all the words to the songs. It was a lot of fun. And I think somebody else mentioned the Martin Luther King dinner and the SUSD Youth Voices. I was able to attend the Desert Mountain Learning Community Science Expo night and was just very, very impressed, especially with one little girl that explained to me all the different types of energy that are used in a roller coaster. And I think she was like first grade, second grade. It was amazing. I did send the board my report for the Arizona School Board Association and National School Board Association trip to Washington, D.C., and sent you quite a few links. There was a lot of good material, and I was so glad that they sent me the links so that I don't have to print it all out for you. But please look at those reference pieces. Also, participation in Parada del Sol, which was a lot of fun. And I did see our fourth graders do the Are You Smarter Than a Fourth Grader? They won. So thank you very much to the Scottsdale Realtors Association for allowing us to participate in that.
Madam President, did you play? Did you win?
No, I stayed in the very back of the room.
Smart girl.
Very, very quiet. And the Hohokam flag ceremony for Arizona's 100th birthday celebration, and also went to Kiva in the afternoon. Thank goodness the rain held off. And I have to tell you, between Parada del Sol and Hohokam in the morning and Kiva, I finally felt like an Arizonan. I've been here for 13 years, and I was on a little bit of a high after seeing all the things that the kids were doing. It was really very exciting. And then the next morning, I got the legislative report. So that lasted for a little while. And again, the Scottsdale Workforce Development, the robotics, and the partnerships. I think I get so excited about partnerships that the district is forming with SCC and with different companies, General Dynamics, and different companies in Scottsdale. It's very, very exciting. Tomorrow I'd like to invite anybody to go to Super Kids Day at Mountain View Park. I believe that starts at 10 o'clock. And I understand the C-SPAN bus will be at Saguaro from 12:30 to 2 tomorrow. So hope I get to see some of you there.
Madam President, members of the board, I'd just like to show you on the screens what we have is our new website for SOL. SOL is Scottsdale Online Learning. And you can scroll through the different tabs, student, parents, about us, contact. There's all kinds of information. You go in there, it's actually all the class offerings are in there. They can enroll, they can register. Pretty impressive. And we developed this, and it's moving forward. And this is what we're going to reach out to all of our students have. So we just developed this.
Did we do it in-house?
Yes. Yeah, Chris
Very nice.
Thuman and Ariane Cleverly did a wonderful job on this. Every time I sent them an update, even if it was Saturday night at 10 o'clock, they had it done by about 10:15 or 10:20. So it was amazing the amount of work they put in on their own to make this happen. And it's incredible. If you scroll through it, you'll see all the things in here. It's just really good. And then a follow-up to this is Chris was able to work with ability with Google to get a grant for $250,000 for Google to be able to steer people to this. So when people do hits, they type in a word search, in those ad boxes that come up on Google, Scottsdale Schools is going to come up in that ad box, and when they click on it, it'll go right into this for us. So Google's working with us for $250,000 a year to make that happen. So we're pretty excited. Good things are going on.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so dates of upcoming meetings. I wanted to remind the board that we have a student appeals hearings on February 24th. That's this Friday at 10 a.m. And we have a study session Tuesday, March 20th at 4 o'clock. Regular governing board meeting, which is a work study, Tuesday, March 20th at 5 o'clock. Then Tuesday, April 10th, we have a 4 p.m. study session, and Tuesday, April 10th, immediately following that at 5 o'clock, the regular governing board meeting. And with that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's 5-0. Motion carries. Thank you. Good night.